for a preview of Game 1 of the Knicks and the Celtics. We'll touch on the Nuggets OKC Thunder as well, but let's get right into it. Now, we know what happened in the regular season, right? We know what the narrative is about the Knicks playing against the top teams and not faring so well, to say the least. All that stuff goes out the window in the playoffs. Means nothing. It's the playoffs, it's 0-0, and everyone's at square one. However, if you're analyzing this game and you're analyzing this series and you're trying to figure out how and what the Knicks need to do to win, you have to take into account what you saw against the Celtics in the regular season. And by the way, the Celtics beat the Knicks handily in 3 of the 4. And the last one was close, but Jaylen Brown sat out the second half. Porzingis was in and out of the lineup. That was not a full-strength Celtics team. The Knicks did not show you that they are capable of playing with and competing with the top teams in basketball, whether it's the Thunder, the Celtics, the Cavs, down the line. We saw that this year. Now, they could change that entire narrative here in Game 1 tonight or in this series. They could change that entire narrative, and it starts with Game 1 tonight. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you're a Knicks fan, this is way different from last year, right? Like, as a Knicks fan last year, you went in, you're playing the Pacers in the second round, right? And by the way, this is the first series the Knicks have had in the last 5 series that they haven't had home court. Because if you remember 2 years ago, they had Miami. They got lucky in the second round, played Miami because they beat the Bucks. So they had home court there. Miami was the 8th seed. Then last year, Indiana upset, I believe, the Bucks as well. I don't remember who they upset in the first round. But regardless, they were the lower seed, and the Knicks were the 2 seed anyway. So they had the home court in the second round there too. They lost both those series. This year, they will not have home court. It's the first year they have it. Now, if you remember, if you're a Knicks fan last year, you went into last postseason, the way the Knicks played at the end of the season after they got OG, the way that the team gelled, even without Julius Randle in the lineup and you knowing he was probably going to be out for the whole entire postseason, the way the Knicks played against Philly in the first round, a good Philly team. That was not a 7 seed, as we know. With Embiid in the lineup last year, Philly was a 2 seed caliber team. They were not a 7 seed, and the Knicks played a great series against them and hung on in 6 games. So when you got to Indiana, you said, you know what? We just got to get through Indiana. We can get through Indiana. We want Boston in the conference finals because, the Knicks played Boston tough in the regular season last year. I believe it was split 2-2. They had the personnel, more of the personnel to deal with Boston. And on top of it, right? On top of it, you were going in with a lot of confidence from the regular season and the way you played against those teams with OG in the lineup, with Dante, with Hartenstein coming on in the second half of the year and becoming the player that we see now with OKC. You had all the positivity. So you said, let's just get through the Pacers here because we might be able to scare Boston. And I think they would have. Now, we know what happened with the injuries. We know the Knicks were up 2-0 in the Pacers series. OG blows a tire, and that was the end of that series. Then Josh Hart got hurt in Game 4. Then Jalen Brunson in Game 7. That was the Knicks, if they were healthy, I think God's honest truth, anyone who was watching basketball would tell you the Knicks would have beaten the Pacers last year if they were healthy. If you don't, then you weren't watching the same series. But they weren't, and that's part of basketball. They got injuries. And they never got to Boston. And all the Knicks fans who wanted to play Boston, who were dying to play Boston, who wanted to see how they matched up against Boston last year, didn't get that opportunity. Well, you know what? This year you do, but it's under completely different circumstances. This is not a Knicks team that a lot of the fans have confidence in right now. This is not a Knicks team that was playing their best basketball at the end of the year. This is not a Knicks team, regardless of how they tried to put the personnel together, this is not a Knicks team that matches up well against Boston. Now, the Knicks did everything in the offseason that said, we're trying to match up against Boston. That's why they got Bridges. Bridges and OG was supposed to be the Brown and Tatum stopper. Whole reason they did it. Well, you know what? That hasn't worked. They've been worse against the Celtics this year. They've been flat out non-competitive with the moves they made. And it doesn't mean they have less talent. They actually have more skilled talent this year than they did last year. But they haven't matched up as well. Not only against the Celtics, but against all the best teams. And so now the Knicks fans go into this postseason, to this series with the Celtics, when they finally do get the Celtics, and they say, damn, can we at least be competitive in this series? Can we even be competitive? Can we win a game? Maybe 2. I've heard most Knicks fans will tell you, if we could just get to 6 games, that's considered a positive. That's considered a successful postseason. Nonsense. Nonsense. Now, are the Knicks as good as Boston? No. We know that. We saw that in the regular season. Are they going to win this series? Most likely not. If you watch any of those games this year and you watch the Knicks against the best teams, you would say until you see it, you're going to have to go off of what you've seen, and it doesn't look good. But if you're a Knicks fan or you're an NBA fan or whatever, and you're going to say this would be a positive, a successful series if the Knicks push the Celtics to 6 games, that's where you're at with the Knicks after what you've seen the last couple of years, then the whole thing's going in the wrong direction. And a lot of people in the front office and the coaching staff need to be held accountable for that. Because this was not supposed to be, oh, let's be competitive against Boston and that's good enough. No. No. The Knicks have now had Jalen Brunson for 3 seasons. 3 seasons. He's been an all-NBA caliber player for 2 of them. He's been a terrific player for all 3 of them. They lost in the second round the first year to the Heat, and they were the favorites in that series. Now, the Heat went to the finals, as we know, but that was a series the Knicks easily could have won. They lost that series. They lost in the second round last year to another team they should have beaten, the Indiana Pacers. We know about the injuries, but again, a series they were favored in and had home court. And now they make all these moves in the offseason. Now, granted, I know they couldn't re-sign Hartenstein, and that threw the whole thing into flux and out of sorts, and that's why they went and made all these moves, but they made them. And the front office went in there, they went out there, and they traded 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges. They traded Julius Randle and DiVincenzo, 2 very key players, core players to the team, for Karl Anthony Towns. And they said, we're going all in. Because now, they don't have the flexibility to go make a bunch of moves. They don't have a bunch of assets to go and do more. To get a Giannis, to get a Booker or a Durant. So they did this last year saying, this is our chess move. To play with Boston and to compete with those top teams and to potentially win a championship. And even if that's not a 1-year plan, and we know things don't just happen overnight in 1 year. But if you come out in this series and you are non-competitive and you get blown off the floor, that's unacceptable. Unacceptable. When you set this team up, you set this team up to go and face Boston. To go and compete with Boston and have a chance to win. Well, this series is going to tell you everything you need to know. And even if the Knicks might have, with this team, it's a new team. I get it. They traded for Towns the day before training camp. I get it. I get it's not this is not an end-all, be-all this year and that's it. You close the book. But the Knicks flat out have been non-competitive against the top teams this year. They've been non-competitive against the Celtics. That is not the way this thing was supposed to go in year 1. Whether they won a championship or didn't. They've been to the second round now 2 years in a row. They've been there. That's not something that's going to get the fans going anymore. That was a nice story the first 2 years. After you haven't been to the playoffs in obviously 10 years, and it's been a struggle for the last 20, we know that. And this front office has done a great job turning things around and getting this team back to relevancy and being a team that competes in the playoffs and plays for playoff spots and is a top 4 seed in these, all those things. And they should be commended for that because they've done a great job. But now, those days are over. This is year 5 now. Year 3 of Brunson, who's not getting any younger. He's 28 years old. Small guards, when they get in their 30s, they don't get better, they get worse. Ask Damian Lillard. Prayers up to him. They don't get better. Okay? Centers that get to 30 and beyond, 7-footers, they don't get better. So you are in a window right now. You're in a win now window. This is the time. This year, next year, and the year after. Maybe. Hopefully. And you got what you wanted. You put this team together to go against Boston. Well, you know what? Here you go. Here you go. Here you go. You got him. You got him. You get all year to work out the cobwebs. You want to write the regular season off? I'm good with that. You want to say we just got the team together? Obviously, they played them in the first game of the season. That was not a fair test, as we know. You want to say we played through the season? We're working things out. Fine. I don't care about the 4-0 regular season. Now's the time. Put up or shut up. And if you're a Knicks fan and you watched that Pistons series, it did not give you confidence that they were going to be ready for this Boston series. Because this Boston team, they're not on the same planet as the Detroit Pistons. No disrespect to them. Great story. They played a great series, and they have a bright future with Cade Cunningham, who's a fantastic young player. But they are not even in the same ballpark as the Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics are the defending champions for a reason. The Boston Celtics have an all-star player at every position almost. They have 4 Olympians this year. Olympians. Tatum, Brown, Porzingis, White, Holiday, Pritchard, Hauser, name down the line. All those guys are good players, contribute, and all of them can knock threes down in waves. And they can embarrass you if you're not ready to play. And they've been here before. They just won a championship. They've been in the finals 2 of the last 3 years. They know what it takes, and they ain't afraid. They're certainly not afraid of the Knicks. And they're not afraid to go in the Garden and win there too. So this Knicks team, if you want to shut everyone up and you want to prove everyone wrong, and this goes to the players and the coaching staff, show me in this series what you're made of. Forget the regular season, forget all the talk, forget all of it. Nobody cares. Now's the time. Because I don't even need to talk about Boston here on this live stream. We know what they're going to do. We don't need to conjure up and, put a game plan together for how Boston can beat the Knicks. Roll the ball out. All they've done is beat the Knicks. So we don't need to come up with a scheme. We know what they do. They shoot 1,000,000 threes. They have 2 of the best players in the league, especially Tatum. They have one of the best rim-protecting centers and three-point shooting centers in the league as well. And they have 2 of the best guard defender three-point shooters in the league as well. And then they have a great bench, including the 6th man of the year. We know what they're going to do. We don't need to dissect that. The Celtics are the better team. They're the heavy favorite in this series. They're 9.5-point favorites in game 1 with a long layoff, with 2 guys coming off an injury. Holiday. 9.5-point favorites. That's what the media, that's what the NBA world thinks, and that's what Vegas thinks of the Knicks' chances in this series. You know what they think of it? 0. 0. That's what they think. So if you're the Knicks, look at that. See all that. Coaching staff, come up with a game plan. Throw everything out the window from the regular season. I don't want to see any of it. It didn't work. Try something else. The Magic gave you a blueprint in the first round that you could at least look at. Because they made it tough on the Celtics, and they don't have near the talent the Knicks have. Not even close right now. Especially without Suggs. And they don't have enough shooting anyway, so they could never keep up in that series. But they showed you the blueprint on defense. They made Boston work. And Boston, who shot 48 threes a game this season. Best three-point shooting team maybe in history. They only took 31 against the Magic. Because the Magic switched everything. They were physical, and they ran them off the three-point line. And they said, you know what? Let's push everything inside. If they beat us with twos, they beat us with twos. And you know what? That was the right strategy. And if the Knicks do that, that could be a factor. Do the Knicks have the personnel to do it? We'll see. Are the Knicks willing to do that? Tom Thibodeau coached teams have not been willing to give up points in the paint before. He doesn't like that. He'd rather give up threes. Well, you know what? Against this team, you do that, you're going home in 4 games. You'll be home, licking your wounds. And maybe thinking about whether your job is safe. If you listen to any of the media pundits out there. So if you're the Knicks in this series, it's time to show whether what you've done in the offseason and the chemistry you've built over the year and the talent that you've acquired this year, if you are ready for Boston, which is what you did this for. I don't care about the regular season. Nobody's going to care about it if you go out in this series and you beat Boston. Nobody's going to care. The regular season, goodbye. This is what it comes down to. And every single person I've talked to, every Knicks fan I've talked to, forget the Celtic fans, we know they think they're going to bury the Knicks, and they have every right to think that. But every Knicks fan I've talked to has said, well, if we can get a game, we'll be lucky. Maybe we can win a game. Maybe we can win a game. That's where the fan base, that's where everyone is at right now. That's the confidence level. Based on the regular season and based on really that series against Detroit, which was unimpressive, to be honest. I'm just being objective watching basketball. Brunson was heroic, especially in Game 6. Towns had his moments. Bridges had his moments. OG had his moments. They all had their moments. But the Knicks have not been consistent enough when they need to. And they should have buried that Detroit team. That should have never even been a series. They had 10, 15, 20-point leads in a few of those games and let them all slip away and almost lost a couple of those games. And they could have lost that series. And Detroit, as fun of a story as they are, they're not a big-time team. Not yet. And their best player wasn't ready for the playoffs yet. And the Knicks barely, that was one of the closest first-round series in years. I think every game was decided by like 3 points or less or something, except for Game 1. This Celtics team ain't that. And you're not going to be playing with your food against the Celtics and then come out with a win. That ain't happening. If you come out in this series and you just have Brunson dribble around and take 40 shots and no one else does anything, that ain't going to work either. And I love Brunson. He's all-NBA, incredible player, we know it. But he needs help. You can't beat the Celtics 1-on-5. You can't do it. It won't happen. You can get away with that against Detroit. Can't do it against Boston. You can't. So, what I want to see from the Knicks, if the Knicks are going to be competitive, and it starts here tonight in Game 1, because this Game 1 is going to tell you everything you need to know about this series. If the Knicks come out and get blown off the floor, there's no reason to tune in for the next 3 games. If they come out and they look different than the team that you saw in the regular season, then you might want to perk up. So I want to see the coaching staff, what game plan they're going to have. I don't want to see what I saw in the regular season. And I'll tell you the keys to this series from a Knicks standpoint. Boston, like I said, we don't have to talk about the keys. Boston just has to do what they do, and they're the best team. For the Knicks, they have to play perfect basketball and execute to a T to win this series. Number 1, Karl Anthony Towns has got to be a focal point of the offense. Not only a focal point, but someone who is going to hunt his shot. I don't want to see a series with Towns like I saw against Detroit. And I'm not only blaming Towns, by the way. I'm blaming the coaching staff. I'm blaming Jalen Brunson, everyone on the team. They have to realize what they need to do in this series. Brunson's going to be Brunson. We know that. But if he doesn't get any help from his friends, they're not going to have a chance to even be competitive. Towns, hunt the shot. You know what they're gonna do. You just saw it against Detroit. You saw it all year. They're going to put their wing players on Towns, maybe even Drew Holiday at times. Tatum, Brown, Holiday. To take away that Knicks 1-5 pick and roll with Brunson and Towns, which teams have done such a good job of taking away in the second half of the season, and the Knicks have not done a good job adjusting to it. Which is why their offensive metrics have gone down significantly in the second half of the year. Because Towns, he's at his best when he has a center guarding him. Because why? The Knicks run the pick and pop. Brunson throws it over to Towns with the center on him. He can't, either the center doesn't have the foot speed, so he can't get out. Towns will bang a three. Or if he tries to get out too much, he doesn't have the foot speed and Towns will go around him for a dunk. But these teams, they figured that out. They said, we're not doing that. We know how important Towns is. Because Towns is the key to the Knicks offense. If he scores 25 points, the Knicks win. If he scores 10 points, they have a lot more trouble. So what they decided was, and all these teams, I think OKC really started doing it in January. And then every team followed. When they put Jalen Williams on Towns. Let's put the wing defender on Towns. Let's run him off the three-point line and force him to get in the post. Let's take away the three ball, because we know that's a big part of his game. Let's take away the pump, fake, and drive, because we know that's a big part of his game. And they've done that. And so what happened? Towns now becomes an inconsistent player depending on how the Knicks scheme him up game to game. And the Detroit Pistons did the same thing. They put Tobias Harris on him. And whenever he had Harris on him, it's tough for him to launch threes. Folks, here's the deal. A lot of people are like, oh, well, Towns should just shoot threes anyway. Shoot over Harris. Towns is not the same three-point shooter as Porzingis. I'll explain. He's as good of a three-point shooter, but Porzingis shoots from up here. Towns shoots from over here. So if you have someone in your jersey, you can't get that shot off if you're Towns. You need a little airspace. Porzingis shoots up here. He could have whoever on him. He could get that off. He doesn't need as much airspace. So they need to figure out a way to get Towns the proper airspace. Whether it's getting more shooting on the court with Shaman or McBride. So they can't put the center, they can't take the center off of Towns, which is what they've been doing. Get more shooting on the court. I don't care what you do. And obviously, you try different combinations here. But we know that's been an issue for this coaching staff, is trying new things on the fly. They might make a game plan from game to game, but they're not usually the type of coaches that are just going to be like, all right, let's just throw this in there. Let's fire this in. Let's try this. It's not what they've done. And if they're not willing to do that in this series, this might be a short series. So, number one is getting Towns the ball and getting him in the ball in spots that he could succeed. Yes, in the post some with the wing player on him. But get him on the move. Get him so he can catch in the post and finish easily. He doesn't have to back in from the three-point line. That doesn't work. He's not that type of player. Catch the ball at the three-point line and back his way all the way down. We don't need that. Get him on a cross screen. Get him in the paint on the move. Get him to catch so he can make a quick move to the hoop and use his agility and his touch and his athleticism. They must find a way to get Towns the ball and get him to hunt his shot. If he doesn't score 25 points a game in this series, the Knicks have no chance to win. None. Because Brunson by himself is not going to do it. That's number one. Number two, defensively. Run the Celtics off the three-point line. Look what the Magic did in round one. Follow that blueprint. Obviously, you have different personnel. We know it's not going to look exactly the same. But the Magic, what they did, they stifled the Celtics at times. And the Magic just don't have enough talent to win that series. The Knicks have more talent than Orlando does. Run them off the three-point line. Force them in the paint. Let them, the way I see it, in 2025, when you have a team that's as good a shooting team as Boston, and they might be one of the best three-point shooting teams in history. When you have a team that could shoot threes like that, you got to take away their strength. You got to take away what they do best. Make them put the ball on the deck. Make them take tough twos. Death by paper cut. If they're going to beat you like that, you clap and you tap, you tip your cap. You could live with that. But you'll be in the game. If they bury you with 15, 23s like they're capable of doing, you can't be in and win these games. It won't happen. So you got to take the three-point ball as much as you can. Obviously, they're going to get some shots, transition, different things. But the Magic kept them 17 attempted threes underneath their season average. The Knicks need to employ the same type of strategy. And number 3, and most importantly, the Knicks bench, they have to get something out of their bench. They have to get something out of it. This cannot be the Knicks playing 5 guys 45 to 48 minutes every single game. It cannot happen. It won't work. The Celtics go 8, 9 deep now with Holiday back in the lineup, probably 9 deep. If they want to play Cornet, they could. They might not. They'll probably go Horford, Pritchard, Hauser. That's my guess. They can hit you in waves. They have a great bench. They have guys that could fill in. Pritchard was the 6th man of the year. He's scoring 14 points a game. He can light it up. They have many weapons. The Knicks have got to utilize their bench in this series. And the coaching staff doesn't like to do that. We know that. But if they don't do that, this Knicks team will be out of gas by game 3, 2 even. And it won't work anyway. What they're going to have to do on the defensive end, the Knicks. You can't ask them to do that for 45 minutes on defensive end and the offensive end. Can't do it. So do they need a big series from OG and Bridges? Of course they do. They need one of those guys to be the third scorer on any given day. Brunson and Towns have got to be there every single game, 25 plus points a game. Has got to happen. Bridges or OG, one of the two, has got to give you 15 to 20 in any given game. And then your bench has got to be a factor. McBride, especially, Deuce, you know I love you, bro. You know I love you. Now's the time. I know Deuce has struggled with injuries the whole year. He hasn't looked like himself since he went down with the injury. I think it was a hamstring or something mid-season. But you know what? He's out there, and they need him. Because he's really the only guy off the bench that could be a microwave scorer, that could get going and give you 8 to 10 points in a spurt. And they need him to do that. They need him. I'd like to see Shamet a little bit in this series. I'd like to see it. I don't know if I'm going to see it, but I'd like to see it. The Knicks have got to get scoring, and they've got to get some stuff off the bench. And Mitchell Robinson, it's going to be very interesting to see, because as great of a matchup as the Detroit series was for him, I think it's as bad a matchup here against the Celtics. He's going to have a lot of trouble staying with these Celtic bigs that could step out and shoot threes. Duren was the perfect guy for him. Can't shoot, rim runner, physical inside. That fits Robinson very well. The center that could pick and pop and destroy you from the three-point line, Porzingis, and even Horford, he struggles with those guys a lot more. So it's going to be interesting to see how they employ him in this series, because they're going to need defense at that position. So from a Knicks standpoint, if they're going to have any chance in this series, they need Towns 25 points every single game. They need defensively, cut the three-point attempts down for Boston. Make them death by paper cut. Make them kill you with twos. Don't worry about that. You got to give up something. They're too good. No threes. Or limit the threes as much as you can. And then the Knicks bench, especially Deuce McBride, has got to have a big series. Has got to be effective in this series. The Knicks bench had a rough series against Detroit. That's not going to fly against Boston. It's not going to happen. So, if you're a Knicks fan, or you're someone who just wants to see a good series tonight, or good series, excuse me, those are the things you got to look for. And defensively, we know Brunson and Towns, it's not their strongest suit. They're offensive players, we know that, but they got to at least be competitive defensively in this series. And I saw Towns do it in the first half or the second half of game 1. I don't remember which it was. Maybe it was the second half. He was great. Second half. We need more of that. You can't let Porzingis go off for 6 to 7 threes, 5 to 8 threes. Can't do it. He'll bury you. So, that's my take on Knicks Celtics. That's my way for the Knicks to have a series that will at least be competitive. Do I think any of those things are going to happen? I don't know. Based on what you saw in the regular season, it doesn't look good. But like I said, the regular season doesn't matter anymore. It's all about now. It's 0-0. We start from scratch, roll the balls out, and see what happens. The Knicks should have no pressure on them in this series. No one's expecting them to win. Now, they have pressure because they're the Knicks, and they've been in second round 3 years in a row, and there's obviously pressure on the coach, there's pressure on the front office because of the moves they made. We know that. But the Knicks players should have no pressure. Go out there. Who cares? No one expects you to win a game in this series. So give it your best shot. Throw everything at the wall. Give them everything they can handle. Now, quickly on Nuggets Thunder, because I want to touch on that series. The NBA, to me, got everything they could have possibly asked for in these playoffs in the second round. Now, they would have rather had the Lakers and the Warriors. We know that. That would have been, their dream. But Minnesota Warriors and Ant versus Steph is not a bad consolation prize. And other than that, Knicks Celtics, Cavs Pacers is the best they would have gotten in that bracket. And Nuggets Thunder with the 2 MVP candidates is as good as it gets. And a lot of people expect this to be a short series as well. I've seen a lot of stuff about the Thunder. Listen, the Thunder were by far and away the best team in the West. They finished 18 games ahead of Denver this year. Think about that. Denver won 50 games. The Thunder finished 18 games better than them. They are loaded. They are the Celtics of the West. Maybe they're even deeper than the Celtics. Shea is going to win the MVP, most likely. Jalen Williams has been terrific. They got Hartenstein now over there, man in the middle, with Chet if they want to play smaller, or both. They got shooters all over the court. All over the court. They got guys coming off the bench. They got everything. Everything they got. And the Nuggets, well, anytime you got Nikola Jokic, you got a chance. And I was impressed with what the Nuggets did against the Clippers those last couple games because the Nuggets were down 2-1. And you know what? New coach. Nuggets have struggled, defensively this year a lot. They've struggled to shoot the ball at times. They don't have a deep team, as we know. They're basically the 5 starters and Westbrook off the bench. That's basically their bench. That's basically their team. They basically play 6 guys. They could have easily laid down and gone home. But you know what? They fought and they beat a good Clipper team. Clippers are a good team. But they're not the Thunder. The Thunder are a great team. Great team. And they got a taste of the playoffs last year. They went home earlier than they would have liked. They loaded up even more this year, adding Caruso, adding Hartenstein. And now they're ready to get there. The only way the Nuggets have a chance in this series, and I'll tell you right now, the only way, and I think of it similarly to the Knicks series, although I give I think it's similar in terms of the favorites. I think a lot of people I've seen say Thunder in 5. I'm going to go Thunder in 6. I give Jokic 2 games. I think because I respect him that much, and they're at the heart of a champion. That team, a bunch of those guys won a championship a couple of years ago. The only chance that the Nuggets have, Jokic is going to be great. Put that aside. They need Jamal Murray to be Jamal Murray for all. It's like Karl Towns for the Knicks. Same thing. They need Jamal Murray to be Jamal Murray every single night, or they won't even have a chance. We know defensively they're going to be at a disadvantage. The Thunder are the best defensive team in the league. And we know the Nuggets are not the best defensive team in the league. The Nuggets are going to have to score points in this series against that Thunder defense. And for them to do that patented, that vaunted Jamal Murray, Jokic pick and roll has got to be humming. And Murray has got to be on top of his game. And then you get a little contribution from Brown. You get a little contribution from Porter. I think he'll be better at home than he is on the road. Role players normally are. You get the normal contribution from Gordon. And you get a little bit of The revenge factor from Westbrook off the bench. Westbrook needs to play the way he did against the Clippers. He's got to play that exact way because otherwise they won't have enough. They only play 6 guys. You know, throw in a little Watson, throw in a little Jordan, but those guys don't play enough to even sniff anything. Jamal Murray has got to be at the top of his game in this series. And then you sprinkle in a little bit here from this guy. Westbrook has a game. Porter has a game. Brown has a game. And then you might have a series. But I think the Thunder are too good. I'm taking Thunder in 6. I think it'll be a more competitive series than people think. But I think the Thunder will win in 6. And I don't think it will be in doubt of whether they're winning the series. This won't be last year against the Mavericks. So that's it for the Game 1 previews. I appreciate you, as always, for tuning in here on YouTube Live. We will be back tonight right here after Knicks Celtics to do a post-game recap of that one, probably around 9:30. We'll be live on TikTok for the second half, as we always are for all these big games, doing play-by-play on TikTok for the second half of Knicks Celtics, game number 1. So tune in there if you want to see that. And until then, the shot clock